they will go for checkout or check-in, the updates should be there. Right, so updation we need to send at the real-time moment whenever the user will click on check-in or check-out. And if they are going for overtime, so you need to provide the shift, accept the shift hours, whatever number of hours they are doing. So they you need to maintain, right? On the basis of that, the payroll service will fetch the data and it will work on it. So you need to maintain that overtime, check-in and check-out. We are going for check-in, check-out. We will try to go for a practical and then what the implementation configuration is required for it. Okay, so with the authentication and employee basic CRUD operation, I hope you all are started with it, right? Already done, yes or no? How many of you are completed that authentication means auth service basic login, log that is required, right? Login, log on and sign up within auth service and within employee the basic CRUD operations. Yes, how many of you are completed? Okay, that's good. Sure. Yes, what about others? At least reply so I will get idea what's going on. Okay, I hope screen is visible to all. So what the matter now with authentication and employee? Okay, that's good. Employee service, basic CRUD operations are there. Now we have to go for attendance service. Within that, we will allow the user to go for check-in and check-out. And at the same time, the real-time notification we need to maintain. So for that, we are going with the SSE and Redis PubSub. That conceptually what is there that we already covered in previous session. So what different services modules you are having within your project? So I hope you are going with the same. Like one is for auth service, one is there for employee, and now one more is there for attendance. And except that, you have to go for a common service. Auth service that is responsible for the authentication and authorization, role-based authorization we need to provide, right, by using pre-authorized annotation. Employee service, so related to employee, whatever code you need to place. Basic CRUD operations are mandatory, except that whatever will be there, like to the admin, you are going to allow to search for the employee detail on the basis of a particular keyword, right? So that keyword you will read from the text box, search box, and you will allow the user to go for a particular requested value. So that time you have to pass the queries for it, not the query, but you have to type the method. Okay, you will type the method to call the query, and behind the scene Hibernate will. I hope I'm audible clearly to everyone. Yes, no, please reply.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's good. So accept the basic CRUD operation. If any search facility or feature you will allow. So in that case, whatever type of keyword you will read, that you need to read with the request. And every time the request type will be get only. Why get? Because now within the filter, you are just allowing the user to retry the data, to fetch the data, right? You are not manipulating any data value in database. So you have to go for get. So that depends what different types of search or filtering you are going to allow. But the basic CRUD operations, your system, your service module working properly for the basic CRUD operation. So that is okay. So you can say CRUD operations are minimal that we are expecting within our project. Okay, now authentication service, employee service, and now attendance service is there. Whatever common code will be that you need to place here. Okay, within that common, what different things we need to pass? Within the common service, you can pass whatever utils. Okay, so I hope you done with the authentication with that way, like for the login, log out, and sign up is part of auth service. Within controller, authentication controller, auth controller, whatever name you are using, within that you are going for at least three. That is, a reference is again part of that. But if you are going for login, log out, and register, so that is okay for now. Later you can update for the reference also. We will see how to do that. So auth service for the three. Okay, we already covered, but I'm just trying to explain you again. Like slash API slash auth slash login. Now that will be your base path, right? And after that, you are going to allow for slash login slash logout and slash register. But that three things you are going to allow whenever user will try to access any page. So before that, you need to verify whether the person is authenticated or not. If within their request, the token value is there, so you need to verify, right? You need to verify whether the provided token and what token you are getting within request, they both are matched or not. If they both are matched, then only you will allow to go for a particular service. That may be employee authentication, attendance, whatever. But the matter is now what we started with employee service and we are going for attendance. So I hope those who started to work, so you realize like whatever different uh, service you are providing by these two, like for the basic create employee, delete employee, update employee, everything is just a request only, right? So whenever you are going to allow the user for any kind of request, first you need to check whether the person is authorized, authenticated or not. If the person is authenticated, so you need to check for the token. Is the token is valid or not? Within the request, if the token is there, you need to verify whether the token is valid or not. So these all methods are required for your all services, employee service, attendance service, payroll service, right? So you should observe like whatever part of code, whatever type of configuration is required for more than one module, those you need to put in common service. So your security configuration, JWT util means utility. Okay, whatever common methods we are having, that may be part of multiple modules. So these kind of things we are placing in common service. So common service is not a service like you have to implement for your process specific. It's just a common. Be whatever process on which we are working, we are having a common. To common means just to place that particular code which is required for more than one services. So if you are going to put that code in a separate only, so for every service you need to repeat that configuration, right? So that's why whatever things are required. So what is required? Like whenever user will send a request, first you need to verify the token. So token related, valid token related method, whatever is there, that you required in employee also, in attendance also, right? So that you need to, the related methods you need to put in common service. So these login, logout, register, that will be in author service. Basic CRED employee operations will be there. So for that you need to go with the API slash employee. Now, within this employee, you have to go for two different roles. One is employee may be normal employee, and another for the particular admin. Because admin is capable to view or all the employee detail, but one employee is not capable to go for another employee detail. Admin is able to go. So some requesters you will allow for employee only. Some requesters will be there for admin also. And if manager is there, so you will go for that. So whatever different roles will be there, on the basis of role, you can define the controllers. Okay, so admin controller is there. So whatever requests you will allow for admin, just place them within admin controller. So whenever request will be there, see, request will decide on the basis of endpoint. So employee service, few services are for employee, few for admin, few for manager. So whatever different roles are there in your project requirement, just go for same number of controller within the controller package. And an admin related, whatever requests you are accepting, just define those method and map them with the request API, the endpoint, you can say. Okay, now attendance, if you are talking about, so within attendance, the person must be registered. So authentication part you already done in employee. If the basic CRUD operations are possible, means you are doing that. So of course, before passing that, you need to check the token value, whatever the person is authorized or not. The same thing you have to implement in attendance also. That's why I started with that, because now the number of services are increasing, the modules are increasing. So you need to use the same thing. Whatever for the employee service you are doing, like you need to call few method to verify whether the person is logged in, authorized or not. So you have to call a method, and that method will verify the token value. Same thing you have to do for attendance, and same thing you have to do for payroll service. A person with a particular role is valid or not for a particular request, and that request belongs to a particular module. So whenever the request will go for the particular module controller class, before that you have to check for the token. So that is common for employee, attendance, payroll, all. So related method you need to put in common service. Okay, so a separate package you can define, and there you can put the method. Same thing, one more is DTU. I think once I explained the basic structure, how you have to go, that time again, I explained the same thing, but I'm just repeating here to make you clear, because now we started with multiple modules here. So the common method, whatever util methods are there, that you need to place. What method you have to define the class? So util means utility, whatever are there. And then you have to go for DT, data transfer offset. I hope I explained that. Like within your employee, 10 fields are there, but you don't want to send 10 as a response. You have to go for 5 all. Okay, so you can define the employee DT. So whenever any request will be there to retry the employee detail, in place of passing directly employee class object, you will pass employee DTO class object. And that DTO is already defined with 5 different properties. Okay, so that's how it's possible to go for a specific number of fields. You don't require to go for all. Okay, because it depends on your requirement, what number of fields are required to pass to the user client as a response or not. So DTO are playing a role like you can say abstraction. We are not okay to show all the fields to the user. So we decided those number of fields should be viewable, or you can say should be sent as a response to the user. So those 5 number of fields we will define in a new class with name employee DTO, and those 5 class we will pass. Now from the database, whenever we will face this request related field, you can say the row record that we will store within employee DTO, and that you have to send to the client as a response. So you are fetching the data from the database, but not as an employee object, but as an employee DTO you are going to pass as a response. Okay, so whatever different code that will be part of your more than one module. Now I hope you started to realize, okay, this code I'm repeating again and again. So just put them within common service. So whatever configuration related files you have to define for each and every module. If you started with your code, so you are observing all these things. So whatever code you are observing, like this, we need to put within each and every module separately, so put them in common service. In same way, the dependencies, whatever dependencies we required, we are going to add them in pom.xml file, right? But once you are placing them in pom.xml file, just make sure like whatever dependency you are adding, they are not repeated. Means, for example, data JPA. So that data JPA is required. If you have to go for Hibernate, you have to communicate with the database. Data JPA is required. But what we are doing in each and every service pom.xml file, we are adding data JPA dependency. So this is not a correct way to do the things. Why? Because we are just going for repetition. So what we need to do, if any dependency is there that you required for more than one module, don't put in a specific service pom.xml file, just place them in parent pom.xml file. So once it will be part of parent pom file, so it will be available for all the modules. So you don't require to place the dependency again and again in a separate module. So once you are adding a new dependency, just make sure it is service specific, then only place in a specific file. The same thing you have to keep in your mind about application.property file if you are using. If you are going for YML, so you can go for that also, but the concept is same. If properties, whatever property we are defining in application.properties file, make sure those properties are service specific, then only they should be placed in application.property file of that particular service. Whatever properties are common, they will remain same for all. So you can put them in the parent application.property file. Okay, same thing for dependency. So these all things you have to keep in your mind. Once you are coding for your project, you need to add dependency. Make sure this is for the related one, then only place in child pom file, otherwise place in other. What it will make, if you will just okay, just go for import and add any dependency, so it will just go for circular referencing. Okay, you will be part of circular referencing where service A is using service B as a dependency and service B is using A as a dependency. So what we need to do, just put all the common files here within this common service. Okay, and whenever you require these common code within any service class, any other module, so just do one thing, use it as a dependency in that particular, right? You need to check the token, whether the person is trying for check-in or check-out, so they are authorized or not, whether they are trying to check all the employee record, whether they are authorized or not. So these all things you need to check. You need to check for the validation of the token. These all things you required for multiple, and the code is placed here in common service. So what we need to do, just use this common service as a dependency in your multiple files. That's it. Just like we are using data JPA dependency in pom.xml file, in employee service pom.xml file, just use common service as a dependency. Once you will place it as a dependency, all the classes, interfaces, everything will be available for your project, and you can continue without repeating the code. I hope this is clear to everyone. Yes, no reply, so we can continue with the attendance part. Okay, good. Now let's try to go for some practical example how the things are working once we are going for check-in, check-out. What the basic concept? Whenever user will click on check-in, behind the scene, what will happen? Whenever they will click on the particular button, name you can pass any, right? So for the user is check-in or check-out. For developer, these are just button, and with the button we are passing a name. If with the button click event, you have to send the data somewhere, so the button type will be submit. That's it. Right, so for the user on the front end, there will be a button for check-in. Whenever they will click on this button, behind the scene, what we need to do, we need to collect that event and we need to pass a request for. Whenever you are passing a request, make sure you are having the endpoint. means you should have the address, then only you can send the mail. So you should have the endpoint. So if you required endpoint, that means within your backend code, the endpoint should be there, right? So within attendance controller, you are going to define the APIs for check-in and check-out. Okay, let me share. Okay, I hope the screen is visible and readable clearly. So here, see, just we are starting like what different requests are required. So we need to allow the user for check-in, check-out, and behind the scene, you need to count the overtime. So just go for check-in and check-out. So the controller is having a base path, and with that check-in and check-out. With that check-in and check-out, you have to go for employee ID because this is not for all together. They can go for check-in or check-out. They have to go for individually, right? So whatever number a particular person will click on check-in, we must have to go with the employee ID, and within your database, the same record you need to store, whether it's a check-in, check-out. The second important point, whenever they will click on check-in button, we have to retry, we have to pass from the front end, we have to pass the request, right? And with that request, whenever the request will there with the backend code, you can say server. So that time you need to store a new record within your attendance log table, whatever is there in your database. And at the same time, as a response, you have to send the update, and that update will be with the real time. Means the actual value of your time is what the date, exact time for hours, minutes, seconds. You have to record these things. And that same value you have to pass as a notification back to as a response. And that response will be like checked out or checked in, and for that particular employee, whoever you want to send it. So that notification is required. So what is happening? Request will be there. We will capture the time, and that time stamp we will store as a new record in database. That's it. But the next point is at the same moment, you have to send the notification. So if you remember in previous session, we discussed on Redis publish and subscribe concept, right? The publisher is going to send the value, or you can say event, but they don't have any idea about the subscriber. In same way, the subscriber is going to receive it, but they don't have any idea about the publisher. Okay, so that same concept we need to implement here, but for that we have to go for configuration. So two endpoint we are passing: check-in, check-out, and with the employee ID, whoever will be there, the employee ID it needs to pass. So currently with the Postman you are doing, so within Postman you have to pass the API. But once the front end will start to work, so that time behind the scene, by means on the screen, you will provide the button for check-in or check-out. But behind the scene, you have to do the same thing. Just like currently you are doing in Postman, using the endpoint and passing the request. The same thing you have to do, but not directly on a screen. It should be able for the user also via a button. here, the request we are passing to the service layer, but before going for that, let's go for what different configuration is required. Okay. One more point, like as I mentioned, whenever user will click on check-in or check-out, we will read the timestamp value and we will store in database. That's it. This is one step. Second is whenever they will go for check-in or check-out, at the same moment, we have to send the notification also. Okay, so here we are going to define for SSE. Just take a look. Within this controller, what we are going to do, so just observe here, we are using Redis message listener container. Why the message is required? Once the record will be stored in database, means now the employee joined, means with the working hours, they started with their working hours. So we need to make the notification for it. That's why whenever any request will be there for a particular endpoint, so that attendance controller is going to handle it. But at the same moment, we have to send the message. And for that, the controller we are defining here. So from that container, okay, let me add. From that container, whenever any request will be there for check-in or check-out, we are going to show it. So the configuration is a third party. You need to make it available for your project because you are working with a Spring and the code. A third party is a different entity. So you need to establish the configuration. Then only we will be able to use the related part of code. Okay, so here the concept of Redis PubSub we are using, so the configuration is required. Whenever any file is about Redis configuration, you are going for security. If the file is related to configuration, the annotation should be there because we are asking to define the bean concept. Those who are aware with the Spring core concept, where we are defining the beans. So I hope you are aware, like a particular class we are using as a Java based configuration is there. So within that, a particular class, Java class we are using for the configuration, and within that, whatever beans will be there, that we are defining. So the file means the class we want to use for the configuration purpose, how Spring will get idea. So we have to use the annotation. Now within this configuration file, whatever methods we will define. And with that, we are going to use the annotation bean. So matter is what? Whenever this bean annotation we are using here, that means we are asking to a Spring, so create one object of a particular. Okay, so it's going to create one object of it. So why we require this object? Because we have to pass the factory concept, the factory design pattern is there. So you can say just like a manufacturing factory, I already explained this example. Then from there, we want to retrieve a particular. So first we are asking for the container, and that container is working with connection factory. Okay, now the container is going to use what type of container we are asking here. So Redis message, these all you will get with the dependencies. Okay, we will see what dependency is there. Once you will add the dependencies, so we will be able to go for these kind of classes because now it's available. You can take a look for the imports also. Data Redis is Spring framework. Data Redis is a type dependency you need to add there. And then you can start to use with the container. So I hope you all started with that, so you are aware with it. Now the next, whatever object we will get here for the container, by using that container object, we are asking to go for a connection factory. See, set connection factory value, whatever we will use here, that we are passing. So by that, as an output, or you can say return value, we are returning the container. So we are ready with that factory value. So whenever we will ask for the check-in or check-out requests, whenever data will be stored within the database as a record, at the same moment, we are able to send the message by it. Publisher and subscriber, they don't aware with each other. We just are asking, whenever you will get this particular, just send the message and the receiver will accept it. So on the postman, you will get the detail. And this is for attendance publisher. Now attendance, why the attendance publisher we are using? Because SSE event, that may be any. So currently we are using here for the attendance purpose. So that's why one channel we are defining, and that channel name is attendance event. So whenever any event will be occurred for attendance, at the same moment, we will ask to send a message to the client. Okay, so both are client here who are sending the message and who are receiving the message. One is publisher, one is subscriber. Okay, so what the requirement is here, the channel is playing a role like a bridge. Whenever requests will be there for check-in or check-out, at the same moment, we want to receive the message from publisher with the channel, and we have to send it to the subscriber. Okay, so the Redis template, I hope you already aware because we covered that Redis template part. Template means a same type of format of data that you want to send. Data will be different, but format will remain same. So that string, Redis template we are defining here with the string values. And by using that, we are going to publish the event. Publish event is a method like whenever request will be there and the data will be stored, at the same time, we need to send a message related to attendance. The name is attendance event. So we are asking to publish a method. So how it's going to pass there, that depends. Whenever you will call this method and you will pass that message, whatever you want to pass, like check in, check out, whatever, the same message will be there as a response. Okay, so main point what we need to observe here, that is we need to define the publisher. It may be any is about attendance, that's why we are going for attendance. And this just like to behave as a service, that's why the annotation we are using here is a service. The Redis template is required in which format you want to pass the data, and that template we are passing as a parameter to the publisher. This publisher is going to assign those value for it. It's just like a constructor dependency injection we are doing here, and one method is defined, that is publish event. So you have to focus on that particular method. Okay, and then attendance controller, right? An attendance service, controller to service, whatever request will be there. So just to observe these methods, so you will get much better idea, because the main business logic is part of service on. Okay, so check in from the controller to the service, we are passing the method. Just see, check in and check out. When we will call the method from the controller to the service, so the request, the control flow will come to attendance service here. Okay, so within this method in service class, what we are doing here, we are asking for attendance record. This is what? This is just an entity. Within your database, you have to store record. That means within your Java code, you need an entity. So it's just a POSO class, attendance record, where we are passing the employee ID, whatever is there. Okay, so it's just an entity only within your Java class, because you need to store the database record. So you need the mapping between these two. So this attendance record is your POSO class. We are mapping it. So within your database, a table will be created. And within that, what we are going to use, so the primary key ID will be there. Employee code. Whenever user will go for check-in, check-out, you just remember in controller, we are asking for ID, right? That ID we need to store here. And after that is status, so it will be check-in, either check-out. And time step, that is the main thing. Like from here only you can check whether the person is doing overtime or what. Okay, so getter status will be there, that you need to define. Now the service is doing what? Whenever the request from the controller, control from the controller to the service will pass, so the check-in method will go for execution. Here as a parameter, we are using that particular employee ID, what we are reading, by using the path variable. Now a new object of attendance record we are creating, and whatever ID from the request, path variable employee ID we are fetching, that we will set for this particular record. And status we will update with check-in. Why we are passing the value manually? Because if user is going to click on check-in button, then only the request will be come here to this particular method. And once the method will go for execution, then only service layer method will go for execution. So it's very sure, like the user is asking for check-in on. Right, so by here from the request, we will read the employee ID, and the status we will update with check-in, and what the time stamp will be. So we are just calling the now method. So that now method is going to read date and time both value, and the time is mandatory here. That's why we are going for local date and time. Okay, and after that, we will store that record. By this, what is happening? By this, a new record in your attendance record table will generate what this particular employee ID status will be check-in, and the time is temp value. Okay, but wait. After that, just after that, we need to send the notification. Means as a response, you have to make them aware, okay, you checked in or what. So for that, we are calling the publish event method. Okay, that we just define in publisher, that method we are calling here. And by this method, we are going to send a message like employee with this given employee ID, that employee is checked in. Okay, the same thing, not exactly, but the code logic will remain same, that you have to go for checkout. Within your front end or from the postman, you are going to send a request for checkout with the employee ID. Request will come here within the controller, checkout. And that controller is going to read the value of employee ID by using path variable annotation. Whatever it will read here, that it will pass as a parameter to checkout method of service slave. And control will come here to this checkout method. With this employee ID, it will create a new record, means a new object of an attendance record, and it will set the employee ID, whatever we are using here. And its status will update with checkout, and it will read the current time and date and time, and it will store a new record. So within your database, a new record will be stored for that employee ID and checkout. If you remember, so in previous session, we discussed like a person checked in at morning 9 a.m. Suppose the shift is starting, but they forgot to check out. So for a particular day, if the person record is there with the status check-in, but the record is missing with the status checkout, so you need to update with absent. Okay, it depends on policy. If companies are doing that, the HR department is going to consider the person if they forgot to check out, so they will consider as an absent. And now manually they have to fill for the form for the approval from the manager, whoever is there. So they need to, that time, at the time of, for the approval purpose, they will fill the form. That time, the time they will store manually. They have to pass manually, like they checked in at 9 a.m. and checked out at 6 p.m. And the reason they need to mention, like they just forgot to check out something. Then the manager will approve it. And then the status within their dashboard will change from absent to present. Okay, so these things are working there. So for a particular date, if you want to check whether the person checked in or checked out, so you need to check for the particular date and read for the two records. If the person checked in and they forgot to check out for the same date, so you have to consider them as an absent. That, again, I'm repeating, completely depends on HR policies, whatever are there. Okay, so checkout is there, and back that we will read the now, and we will save that record. And again, we have to update them on it. So we need to publish the event, a message we want to pass there. So whatever publisher method we defined here, the same we are passing. So the matter is quite simple. You have to do the rest part will be exactly same, whatever you are doing with your employee CRUD operations, right? But the main important point, you just within your employee CRUD operation, create employee. You are calling the same method and you are passing employee record here. That's it, right? And as a response, the same record, inserted record you will pass, or you are going to send a message. That depends on you. But here, we have to do it just like at the same moment, whenever the record will be stored, you are asking to publish the event. So this part is something different that you need to observe. Okay, so this is how the check-in and check-out are going to work here. And within the repository, so repositories are going to use the JPA. So you just don't need to go for any method there. Just go for JPA repository and pass the class name and the ID, data type, that's it. Okay, before the basic, we just have to go for CRUD operation, so it will perform indirectly. We don't need to go for it. Okay, so is it clear conceptually what the things are there and how it's going to work? So we can go for practical. Please take a look and let me know. Okay. Yes, others. What about? Is it clear to all? Okay, that's good. The main point is configuration, right? If the configuration is coded properly, so you just have to call the publish event method and pass whatever message you want to pass there. That's it. What is there with that record? Sorry, with that request, we are passing for this particular attendance API and check-in. And with that, the employee code is given. Whatever, now see, here the authorization concept will come in scene. Like you, before allowing the user, you need to check for that particular token validation, right? So employee ID, we need to pass here. That means the related employee ID must be there in your employee table. Then only the user can go. They can't go for random, right? And within your front end code, you need to fetch the employee ID. I mean, you will not ask the user for just you want to check in. So give me your employee ID. It's not like that. The person is logged in. That means you are having the person detail, right? By code, of course. And whenever the person will log in and they will try to go for check-in, so you will not ask them because they already logged in. Then how can you ask for the employee ID? What your application is doing if they have to provide their identifier again and again. So once they will log in, so you are not going to ask them for their employee ID once they will go for check-in or check-out. No, you have to read it by their data. Okay, so whatever employee ID will be there, you need to face that employee ID and then you have to place it here. Here means once by code you will set the request. So with the path, you have to pass the employee code, but you can't ask them for it. Like how many times daily they are going for check-in, check-out, you are asking for employee code. So from their data only, record only, you need to fetch it and you need to make it part of it. Once you will send, no data, no things are required within my code. I'm just using it for the demonstration purpose. Once you will do that, you have to go for authorization. And there you have to go for token because the person will be logged in, then only they will go for it. Okay, so currently, just we are sending the request here and it's swing. See, a new record is generated with a particular ID. Employee ID is 101, status updated with check-in and the real-time step is reading. The same thing is stored in database. Now, once we will go for checkout, means you can visualize the user on the dashboard, their profile, they are going to just click on checkout. So again, we have to read the employee ID and we will send a request. What will happen there? Our new record, see ID is updated here. Our new record is inserted in the attendance log table and the same employee ID and the status is updated with checkout and the time is set. So we are getting the details here. That means the publisher event is publishing it. Then only we are going to read it here, right? So that same thing you have to update. Once the front end you will start currently is a postman for the API testing purpose only. So what you are going to get here in the response body, the same thing you will collect in your front end code as a response. And where you need to update it, like the user will click on check-in and at the same moment they will get the notification like you checked in, and same for checkout, right? So from here only you have to update the status there. So once you will pass the request from your front end code, the same data you will collect there as a response. And now by your front end code, you have to retrieve only the status value, and that status within the screen, whatever component is there, you have to update. Check in, check out, checked in, checked out. So what will happen? Like user will click on check in, at the same moment the status will get updated, checked in. Okay, so this is how the things are working. Means what I just click on send button and okay, the request type is post. Why? Because within your database a new record is inserted. Whenever you are doing nothing with the table record except the reading, the type will be get. Get type, get HTTP method get, because you are doing nothing with the database. You are not manipulating the data. To read the data, then HTTP method will be get. Except that whatever we are doing, it will be manipulation within the data. We are asking to update a whole record. We are asking to update a partial record. We are asking to add a new record. Everything is manipulation. So you have to go for post. Why we are going for post here? Because we are asking to create a new record. The same thing, the same HTTP method, related HTTP method you have to use for partial update or a whole update or delete. Okay, so currently we are asking for a new record. That's why we are going for post. So whenever within the controller you are defining the method and you need to map it, so ask to yourself, whatever data you will pass within this method, it will do what it will do in database. If it is only for reading purpose, so get mapping will be there, just like, okay. Fine, so that checkout status you will collect within your front end, and on the screen you will update, checked out, checked in, like that. Okay, so we are going to get the data here. Fine, and with the time. Time is playing very important role, because from here only you will count whether it's an overtime or what. And the same thing you have to update with your database also. Okay, so is it clear to everyone? Yes, no? Okay, that's good. Very nice. Fine. So now for the overtime, as I mentioned in previous session only, we discussed like if you have to go forward. If the overtime concept is not there within your project requirement, or you can say whatever company policy is there, so they are just working with a particular shift, either morning or evening. Shift concept is not there, so overtime concept is not there. Okay, suppose, because it completely depends on what policies they are using. Suppose there is only one shift is morning, and you checked in, the working hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the person checked in at 9 a.m. and they checked out at 8 p.m. So that doesn't mean they are doing work overtime. Reason, if the overtime policy is not there, the company don't require any kind of overtime. So they will not go for overtime concept. If you, in place of 6 p.m. you will check out at 8 p.m., still it will consider that like you completed your working hour for a particular date. That's it. Because they are not entertaining the overtime concept. But if a particular company, as per their job, whatever they are doing, it is concept of over time they are handling, in that case only the time stamp matters. Like they checked in at a 9 a.m. and they checked out at 8 p.m. But the shift time is 9 to 6 only. So 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. that will be their overtime, extra hours. That on the basis of that, you need to update your database table for the overtime time. So this is the logic. Now you have to try for the overtime concept. As I mentioned, authentication is already covered. A new module you will start with that. So just check for the validation from the common service, call that method and check whatever token you are receiving with the request, whether it's valid or not. And then you have to entertain the particular request. Okay, and within the postman, if you are getting that value, then go for overtime. So first you need to try for overtime, and if any query question will be there, so in next session you can discuss on it. But you need to go for it because we discuss on logic. So you have to start with that. Let's see what we will get there. So you are going to start with check-in and check-out concept. Okay, that's good.